Hi, my name is Mary Craig, and I'm really happy to be part of this project of Teal Talks just to raise awareness for ovarian cancer. And I'll try to relate my story the best I can. Um, about a year ago now, it was the beginning of summer vacation, and I was a teacher up until about 3 days ago. After 30 years, I'm retired officially, but it was the beginning of summer vacation. And I was feeling, very odd, very vague symptoms, nothing that prevented me from doing what I wanted to do. And so I ignored it, didn't think much of it. It got increasingly more intense. Just a feeling of bloating, of discomfort, depending on the position that I was sitting in. It was, sometimes though days would go by and I would feel absolutely fine and kind of forget about it. Actually had a doctor's appointment for something other than these symptoms in the beginning of August of last year. And my general practitioner, I related to her that I was having some kind of mysterious sensations, thinking that maybe it was a urinary tract infection, although it did feel differently. And she tested me for that. It came back negative. In retrospect, and she has expressed regret. Not that there's any blame for anyone. I'm just very grateful to be here, but she has expressed regret that she didn't pursue testing further, and but it is what it is. And so anyways, it was at the beginning of another school year, and very busy time if you're a teacher. And so the denial mode kind of kicked in, like, this is nothing serious. I'm going to begin another exciting school year, my final one. And, just as the quarter went on, it was late September and the symptoms became increasingly more difficult to ignore. There were a couple nights that I woke up in the night, from such discomfort. I actually was beginning to feel, that there was a tumor in there. So, stopped the denial that we can all be capable of, and, started listening better to myself, and made an appointment to see my doctor. At that point, she just did a pelvic exam, told me that because of my age, she was pretty certain that it wasn't just ovarian cysts, but she did say cancer right there at that first appointment, although of course she could not confirm anything. It happened to be on a Friday. The lab was closed. She said that if it had been open, she would have ordered blood work right away, which would have been more conclusive. But the following week, Monday and Tuesday, she ordered an appointment with a gynecologist and also an ultrasound. And even though the ultrasound took probably an hour, and they told me they'd be done in 20 minutes, they were really probing and prodding and could not determine anything conclusive. My appointment with a gynecologist, she was doing also a pelvic exam, just feeling. And she said, by the way it felt, that it probably was just an ovarian cyst because there was movement in it. And then I happened to be wearing a Star of David, and she stopped and said, well, wait a second, if you're Jewish, I'm going to give it a 50-50 chance that you have cancer. And so they did blood work. There's something called a CA-125. It's a cancer marker. Normal levels, because everybody has, some level of that in our blood. It's a protein. Normal levels are between 0 and 35. When the results came back, and it took almost a week, but by the time they came back, my level was already at 7,000. I live in Woodland Park, which is about half an hour from Colorado Springs, a fairly large city. I think the whole metropolitan area probably has about 500,000 people, although there's only one gynecological oncologist in the entire city, which is in some way unfathomable, but true. So I immediately, called the office trying to get in. There was nothing for like 3 weeks, and I absolutely knew that it couldn't wait. Fortunately, a friend of a friend, I mean, unfortunately for her, but had also been diagnosed with ovarian cancer some years ago, is today doing just fine, thank goodness. But she recommended Dr. Gundapalli at Anschutz in Denver, and said that he absolutely saved her life, and he was a phenomenal surgeon and doctor and oncologist. And so I called his office. He was able to get me in almost immediately, I think a day or two later. Went to see him. They did the blood work, and of course, scheduled a surgery for about a week later. In that time, I learned, afterwards, that my cancer marker was over 11,000. I was at stage 3 ovarian cancer at that point. The surgery was 7.5 hours long. Incredible team of doctors. Dr. Alldredge, I can't say enough wonderful things about her. I absolutely love her. She is my doctor who has taken over since the surgery. I meet with her a little closer to home in Highlands Ranch, so I don't need to travel all the way to Denver. But anyways, the team of Dr. Alldredge and Dr. Gundapalli are phenomenal. They absolutely saved my life. So I had almost an 8-hour surgery. They were, gratefully able to remove 99% of the tumor. It had actually spread to lymph nodes, and Dr. Alldredge apparently spent, I think they said, 2.5 hours just chipping away at a tumor on my aorta. So pretty scary stuff. I went into the surgery really not knowing what stage, because they hadn't determined that. So it was a 7.5 hour surgery. I was in the hospital for about 4 days. Went home to my lovely daughter Sophia's house, who just, every morning would climb in bed with me. And, despite the fact that I had gone through this, kind of major trauma, there was joy and laughter and love, and they just tried to fatten me up the best they could, and just somehow felt very positive, very hopeful, very strong, supported. I think that was a huge part of it, just feeling the support of friends and family and the school community, and to have such incredibly capable and caring, compassionate doctors. Began chemo, I think probably a month after the surgery. I had my final, hopefully, knock wood, final, hopefully forever, chemo mid-February. I'm on an oral medication now. I have so much to be grateful for as far as how I was physically throughout the chemo. I was able to push through the side effects. It wasn't too terribly horrible. I mean, it's not the most fun in the world, of course, but the nightmarish stories that some people suffer, I was very fortunate. Found out that I had a BRCA2 mutation. Having this mutation, which is much more common in Ashkenazi Jews, puts you at a much greater likelihood of developing breast cancer, even more so than ovarian, but I was fortunate enough to get the ovarian type. The absolute most heartbreaking thing of all of this is that my daughter Sophia also has that genetic mutation. So it was absolutely the hardest part of all of this, knowing that at age 30 she will have to she's made some really important and brave decisions. Grateful though to have that information, because without knowing, it happens. And but having that information, you can take control, which she's going to do, and I'm so very proud of her. Really, really important to listen to your body. It's so easy to ignore and think, this is not the time, I can't deal with this now. But there's never a good time. It's never a convenient time to deal with a life altering situation. But I feel fully alive. In fact, the day before my surgery, one of the things I love to do is to hike. Went on a wonderful hike, just came back from one now. So to listen to your body, to be proactive. If you get a diagnosis, you can get through it. Thanks.